welcome. You are watching the Newshour Agenda. I'm Padmaja Joshi. By now, you have all heard of the interview of former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. The interview excerpt, which has set the cat among the pigeons and has again revived a pain chorus, a lament about what is happening in this hellhole called India, where democracy is dead and people are living in Nazi Germany type situation. No freedom, no speech, no democracy. Can't even tweet in peace anymore. Here is the sum and substance of what Dorsey said when asked for anecdotes of how he's been pressured by people in power to curb free speech. The former Twitter boss said that during the anti-farm law protest, the Indian government sent many requests to him to withhold Twitter accounts. These accounts, he says, were critical of the Indian government. He also said that Twitter was threatened with raids and a shutdown if they did not comply. Now, we'll come to the truth of this raids and shutdown in just a bit. But first, let's actually see what was the nature of the accounts that were withheld during the farm protests or for which a request was made by the Indian government. Was the Congress handle held? Were all voices of farmers, all the Twitter handles operated by farmer groups withheld by Twitter and by the Indian government? Here are the facts. According to the filings made by Twitter itself with the content removal database, a majority of the 257 Twitter handles that the Indian government asked to be deactivated had put out tweets with the hashtag Modi planning farmer genocide. The action against them was sought after law enforcement agencies said that inflammatory posts by these handles can lead to more violence. Remember, already on the 26th of January 2021, on Republic Day, there had been widespread violence in the national capital by these protesters against the farm laws, which is why this request was then made in February the same year. The question is that if there has already been a law and order problem, and if some handles on social media, some accounts on social media are trying to create an atmosphere which could result in more violence, is it the right of the government to ask for content regulation?
This is a fiction that he has put out there for whatever reasons that he's put out there. But the facts are that the government of India has consistently maintained that any platform, whether they are foreign or Indian, whether they are big or small, must comply with Indian laws if they are to operate in India and offer services and products to the Indian citizens. That Twitter was misusing its power as a platform to selectively de-amplify and selectively de-platform people both in India and abroad. In India, it was a direct violation of Article 14 and Article 19.
एक बार फिर मोदी सरकार के काले कारनामे, उनसे जुड़ा हुआ सच बाहर आ चुका है। ये असलियत है 56 इंच की छाती की। तानाशाह का असली चेहरा सामने आ गया। सॉरी, तानाशाह का असली चेहरा सामने आ गया। तानाशाह का मुझे लगता है अगर आप गूगल में डालिए तो शायद ये चेहरा सामने आता है। अब इनको पीछे करते हुए ये चेहरा सामने आने लगा है।
So here are the questions that arise. What is the truth of the claims that all voices critical of the government during the anti-farm law protests were silenced? Is the former Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey, being economical with the truth for reasons best known to him? And in extrapolating Dorsey's comments to bolster its own claims of a dying democracy in India, has the opposition, especially the Congress, opened up its own can of hypocrisy worms? All right, joining us on the debate, we have Shazia Almi, spokesperson of the BJP, Tushar Gupta, senior editor of Swaraj, Jiten Jain, cybersecurity expert, Saket Gokhale, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress, and Kamru Choudhay and Shyam Prasad Meka, both leaders of the Congress. Let me start with you, Mr. Kamru Choudhay. I want to show you a few examples of the Twitter accounts which were actually withheld. Is it a crime to ask for regulation of content when there are people tweeting with the hashtag Modi plans farmer genocide? Let me give you an example of one person who actually said that another Jallianwala Bagh kind of massacre is going to happen in India. The Indian government made a formal request saying that accounts like these should be withheld. Do you disagree with that?
Padmaja, good evening first and foremost. Now my question to you, a counter question, can the government decide what is a free speech? Let the society decide, or the Twitter users decide what a free speech is. Absolutely. During the farmers' protest, we see how the government came down heavily on those farmers, calling them terrorists.
Sir, I'm asking you a very specific question right now. I'm asking you a very, very specific question. First of all, today Jack Dorsey's comments about requests made by the Indian government were extrapolated to say everyone who spoke for farmers was shut down. I'm giving you a specific example of people who were actually shut down, which includes this man who said that for once there has been a Jallianwala Bagh massacre in India and it is going to be repeated by the Modi government. Modi planning farmer genocide hashtag. These were the kind of accounts, and this is not me saying it, by the way, this is Twitter, its own mechanism which has given these examples. Now please tell me, if this man, his account is withheld, is that dictatorship? Because your party today held up Hitler's picture, so I'm asking.
No, why are you quoting? No, is this a particular specific example you want to link up with the Modi government's handling of free speech in India through these social media platforms? It's another question that hardly 2% of India uses Twitter and listens to the Twitter. But it's a fact that the government decides its policy on the basis of the Twitter, what the people are tweeting and how the public opinion is generated. It's another matter. Now the point here is that it all started with some of the Twitter handles of the prominent IT cell of the Bharatiya Janata Party, like Amit Malviya, getting flagged as manipulated media.
Sir,
like Ravi Shankar Prasad.
You are now again running around in circles. I want to keep it very limited. I want to keep it very limited. First of all, you are again disproving your point. If Modi is a dictator, hold on a second. If Modi is a dictator who is dictating terms to Twitter, and Jack Dorsey was so scared that he was doing everything that Mr. Modi was telling him to, how did Amit Malviya get flagged? How did Sambit Patra get flagged? How did the account of Venkaiah Naidu get withheld? How did the account of Nitin Gadkari get withheld? Now this has to be a really weak dictator that his own party members' accounts are getting red flagged and withheld. What kind of dictatorship is this? This is low quality dictatorship.
Coming to that point, Padmaja, I wanted you to come to that point. It all started with those Twitter accounts getting flagged. After that, it all went into the shadow banning of Rahul Gandhi's account, suspension for a few hours. Then there was, do you forget the cases of like Disha Ravi cases?
Okay, again, you are dodging the actual question. So here's the thing, about your initial, hold on a second, Shazia, I'm coming to you. Your initial suggestions about the question asked, and we have to look at the facts, because we go in all directions extrapolating and missing the woods for the trees. Hold on a second, Mr. Choudhary, hold on. Let's stick to the facts. Why were these accounts withheld? Not because they were tweeting about the farm agitation, but because they were tweeting incendiary content about the farm agitation. This man, Ankan Chattopadhyay, says, आजादी के पहले जलियांवाला बाग हुआ और अब फिर होने जा रहा है मोदी प्लानिंग फार्मर जेनोसाइड. Joban Boparai says, Delhi government tankers not allowed to enter Singhu border, BJP goons allowed with lathis and stones to beat up farmers, Modi planning farmer genocide. And it is these people whose accounts were withheld. At the peak of the farm agitation, Rahul Gandhi's account was not withheld. At the peak of the farm agitation, Mr. Choudhary, your account was not withheld. And you certainly weren't raining any flowers on the Modi government. So if all critical voices against the government were silenced during the farm agitation, why were you still tweeting?
Modi government. Now, Padmaja, if you want a monologue, then go ahead. Just can't invite me and just go on a monologue.
But you have to stick to the topic.
Please let us also have our point of view across.
You have to stick to the topic. The topic is very simple.
Decide, please.
On national security, does the government of India have the right to ask for content regulation? Yes or no?
Do you forget that on the Singhu border, when the farmers were sitting on a strike, there were barricades, the roads were dug up, then the concrete pillars were dug up on the roads, there were barbed fence
Sir,
wires,
right now,
then the people
the debate topic is about
they were
Twitter.
surrounded by...
I am talking about Twitter regulation, content regulation. Does the government have a right to ask for content regulation, yes or no, from social media?
Just give me 10 seconds uninterrupted,
10 seconds,
please.
go on.
Uninterrupted 10 seconds, please. I request of you.
Yes.
Basically, whatever Jack has said today, Congress party has been saying it for long. Now it has hit the headlines just because for this reason that a former CEO of Twitter who felt pressurized because of the Indian government's directives to ban this account, ban that account, that's why it has come into the public domain.
Again,
but otherwise there was no reason for
you are self-contradicting. If Jack Dorsey was so pressured by the Indian government, how did he get to withhold the account of Nitin Gadkari and Venkaiah Naidu? You still haven't answered that. That this bully government could not bully him enough to not withhold the account of Nitin Gadkari. But let me take your initial point to Shazia Almi. It is not the government of India or you or Mr. Modi who can decide what is inflammatory content and what isn't. It is the common man who should decide, according to Kamru Choudhay. Shazia Almi, you shouldn't be super censor.
So I heard with great patience Mr. Kamru Choudhay fumble, mumble, bumble. No. Again, yeah, I'm coming to that. I can tell you what free speech is. I can tell you what fabricated speech is. I can tell you what false speech is, and I can tell you the difference amongst the three. When there is a total disinformation and a lie and a hashtag which says that Indian government is planning a genocide. Do you know what the word genocide means? You feel it is not incendiary? It is not inflammatory? Do you want India to burn? What happened at Capitol Hill siege? Tell me the US government cracks a whip and Twitter goes running and caves. So Capitol Hill matters. Red Fort doesn't matter. Americans matter. Indian lives don't matter. Yeah? I'm sorry. You have that slave mentality. We don't. Ours is a sovereign country. It will run by Indian rules. You can say as much about any government, but you will not make up stories and post something which is incendiary and lies only to burn this country down. We will not allow it. You can hate India and Indians. We don't. And a law prevails. No matter who you are.
Let me actually quote to you what happened. What happened between January 12th and January 26th. January 12th.
They were taken down.
January 12th. 6 days after the insurrection at the White House, Kamru Choudhay, Twitter publicly disclosed that it had suspended 150,000 Twitter accounts. 150,000 accounts. You don't hear Jack Dorsey saying that American Prime Minister was leaning on me, the American President leaned on me, and what a bully and democracy is dying. 150,000 Twitter accounts were suspended by this same Twitter. Why? Because White House violence had happened. And 26 January, Red Fort violence happened. The Indian government said there are accounts which are asking for riots, withhold them. Jack Dorsey says, what a bully. Let me ask you then, Jiten Jain, is this an anomaly? Is this an assault on free speech? Or is there anything at all in the IT laws that makes for such requests to be made?
I think, Padma, I would not like to get into this political space. My dear friend, Sazi has given a good reply. But, I want to put certain things in perspective. See, for long, almost a decade, we Indians have not realized the threat posed by the big tech in India. We thought anything which was free was harmless. We never, thought of our data going to these foreign companies being used for election interference. We never thought that how these companies are becoming and are trying to act as sovereigns, trying to treat themselves as viceroys of India. They were running a digital data colonization campaign in this country because we had no data privacy law, data protection laws. I think in last couple of years or 2-3 years, there is a growing consciousness in the Indian polity, Indian public, that our data, our rights, our societies, our behavior of these companies in these countries need to be regulated. And in that autumn, I think when government saw that there were certain accounts which were being run by foreign hostile intelligence agencies who were masquerading as Indian journalists, some right-wing people, left-wing people who are trying to create some sort of political divisions or religious friction in the society, who are calling for violence, who are trying to incite religious hatred, who are trying to incite some sort of, the violence on the streets of Delhi in the garb of farmer protests and garb of free speech. Government wanted those accounts to be withheld. Now, if you call this an assault on free speech, so be it. But you have to understand that there were more than 50 lakh tweets in 10-15 days which were critical of the government. Government did not ban all those 50 lakh tweets. There were almost millions of users who were tweeting against government. Did government of India do anything? It's a free society. We are a democracy. Criticism is accepted. But if the criticism is carried out, a propaganda is carried out with garb of criticism by a foreign hostile intelligence agency masquerading as Indian entities, then I think any government will act. So the first part of Jack Dorsey's statement, where government wanted to block certain accounts, is the case of a foreign foreign interference by a foreign hostile agency. Now, second point he made, that government of India warned him that they might raid his offices or arrest him or shut Twitter down. I think when government of India brought down new IT rules, they wanted Twitter to comply with Indian laws. They wanted Twitter to be held accountable for the content which was there. They wanted Twitter to comply with government directives or else go to the court. They wanted Twitter to open a local office. They wanted Twitter to have a chief grievance officer. They wanted to have Twitter to have a compliance officer. And these laws were not only for Twitter. They were all for all social media significant intermediaries who are 60% users in India, making billions of revenues and not paying any taxes, not bothering of Indian government, Indian citizens' rights. When Twitter refused to comply with those IT rules, when Twitter refused to comply with those government orders, when Twitter said in India Parliament that it is our policy which is supreme, and if we think that certain thing is in the category of free speech and not hate speech, we may not take on the content. And the government of India is not the interpreter of free speech rights in India. I think it's an elected government. It's the elected parliament which has framed the law. Jack Dorsey, sitting with his 5 cronies in a California boardroom, may have decided to deplatform a sitting US president and a man who was entrusted by US citizens in a democratic process to be entrusted with the nuclear launch codes. This man with 4 cronies decided that this man, Donald Trump, was incapable of operating a Twitter account. This was done without any court order, without any executive order, without any judicial process. Now, 6 months later, just 1 second, 6 months later, this same hypocrite allowed Taliban, people who carried out mass execution on football fields, who paraded suicide bombers openly in the Afghan national capital, they were allowed on Twitter. So this hypocrisy knows no bounds. If something happens on the streets of America on Capitol Hill, within 1 hour, kill Mike Pence hashtag was suspended. When Indian government asked that remove this hashtag you mentioned, that Modi planning farmer genocide, Twitter replied in writing that we do not have technical wherewithal and capability to suspend a hashtag. Complete dual standards. I think they are doing nothing but political interference in India. And this man Jack Dorsey, whoever he is, he's an irrelevant character now. He's just trying to find some fame by giving some nefarious interviews, trying to do some medal in Indian elections.
Okay, so essentially the action, Saket Gokhale, was about compliance to Indian laws. Today, Jack Dorsey's lament about that is being taken to further political agenda. The same man complied in the United States, and in India, he's calling it bullying.
Padmaja, 1 second. Look at the hypocrisy. This man says our office was raided. In several judicial forums in India, Twitter has said that we have no office in India. Twitter America is different, Twitter India is different.
Okay. We don't want to get into... Okay, all right. Let Saket Gokhale respond. It's basically about compliance, and yet today your party has said, Saket Gokhale, requests or in this case, veiled threats. Government is very clear. The IT expert is clear. There were no threats. It was only asking Twitter to comply and do in India what they did on Capitol Hill. Saket Gokhale.
Hi, Ms. Joshi. Thank you very much.
Hi, Mr. Gokhale.
The IT expert that I heard right now was also defending what Donald Trump did at the Capitol insurrection, saying that Donald Trump was elected by the people of America, so he should have had open access to say what he wanted. So I will not get into what the IT expert said right now. But let's separate the two issues. Yes, if there is malicious content that creates or seeks to create disorder or enmity between groups, the government of India is fully entitled to act upon that. Any social media platform must comply with that. On the other hand, what we are talking about is, you rightly said earlier that accounts of certain ministers were withheld. There was a manipulated media tag added to certain accounts. There was a BJP spokesperson whose tweet was tagged as manipulated. Within 24 hours, Delhi police raided. the residences of a few Twitter employees and their offices. Number one. Number two, if Prime Minister Modi, we did not talk about this whole, dictator, Hitler and all of that. Let's not get into that discourse. Let's talk facts, as you said rightly. Now, if this government believes in...
Is it about compliance or veiled threats? What was the threat? We have a law, the government said comply. Because this man or these people are trying to incite a riot in our country. Simple.
I'll tell you what veiled threats are. I'm just coming to that. Mr. Dorsey also said that the government said the houses of your employees will be raided, and houses were raided.
When?
At no point has... Sorry?
When were the houses raided?
This has been reported. I mean, I don't know, maybe your channel did not report it, but it's been reported in the media that...
No. Which houses were raided? Whose houses was raided?
I'm not going to give you an address list on that. Come on, let's be...
No, come on is hardly a response, sir. Can you tell me whose house was raided? Tell me whose house was raided.
If you would let me finish my point, I mean, I know it's getting maybe a little uncomfortable, but...
It's not getting uncomfortable, sir. You literally, I have given you the platform because it's a democracy. If you would make me uncomfortable, then I could well opt out of having you, right?
You did not interrupt the BJP spokesperson. You did not interrupt the IT expert speaking in favor of the government. Allow me to have uninterrupted 2 minutes.
But sir, you have made a very serious claim. We must put out which Twitter employee was raided and when.
Jack Dorsey has said that. Now,
but that is exactly what we are saying. Jack Dorsey can say that India is below Nigeria in the democracy ratings, but that doesn't make it gospel. My question to you is, since you are an Indian, Jack Dorsey is not, nobody cares. You are one of our prime opposition parties and you say that we raided an employee. When was the raid happening and on who?
If you will not let a person finish the point that they were making, trying to derail it and take it into another direction, then it's a futile debate. We don't want an echo chamber here.
I am literally on your track.
You're not letting me finish.
You said that Twitter employee was raided. I'm asking who?
This is what we mean by... This is what we mean by not let... At least let the people watching decide. At least let us have a voice.
Sir, I'm asking you for more details. I'm encouraging you to bring out the dastardly details of the doings of the Modi government. Who are those hapless employees of Twitter who have been raided?
You cannot both talk at the same time. Either one of us talks. If you want me to speak, then you will have to hold your peace for a second.
Okay, go on.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me jog people's memory back a little bit. When we talk about real threats. In January, a documentary by the BBC on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his tenure in Gujarat was banned by the government of India. I'm sorry, was that documentary a threat to the sovereignty and integrity of India? After that, the BBC offices were raided. This is what we call about real threats and using agencies. The government, on the other hand, there is an immense amount of accounts, including those of BJP spokesperson and BJP IT cell, that have spread an insane amount of communal hate and hate speech on Twitter. Those accounts have never been out. Twitter's never been told to take down those accounts. So why those accounts, why do they continue to be on Twitter? Why did Twitter never receive any request to take down BJP IP cell accounts that are spreading hate speech? Does the sovereignty of India and integrity of India only depend on what the government decides is valuable lives? Or does it depend on actual law?
That's a great question, because here is another account. Since you said that there were veiled threats and all voices critical of the government, especially on the farm law, were shut down, let me show you a tweet by Rakesh Tikait. You would agree that by all appearances, he is a farmer, one of the primary voices. Here is what Rakesh Tikait tweeted at the height of the anti-farm law protest. He said, Dear POTUS, we the Indian farmers are protesting against 3 farm laws brought by PM Modi's government. Biden, speak up for farmers. These black laws should be repealed. Please focus on our concern while meeting Prime Minister Modi. Mr. Tikait asked for America's intervention in rolling back farm laws, and he, because it's a democracy, continues to be on Twitter, and his tweet is still there on Twitter because it's a democracy. So you will have the Kisan Ekta Manch, Rakesh Tikait, Naresh Tikait, and since you spoke about veiled threats, let me show you your tweet from at the height of the farmers' protest as well. Hold on a second, Mr. Saket Gokhale. Mr. Gokhale, you tweeted on the 8th of December 2020, protesting farmers are firm on their stand, bullying will be deployed 10 on 10. Your own tweet on farm laws is there. Were you shut down?
Don't let people talk. Now let me tell you, why was, again, you've not answered my very specific question. What did I start by saying? anything that was problematic during the farmers' protest that could incite violence, the government was within its rights to ban it. However, why is communal content that was coming at the same time, ministers referring to protesters as Khalistanis, why was that not taken down by the government of India? That is my question. Why is the rule applied only selectively? Yes, ban accounts that talk about farmer genocide, but why aren't you banning accounts that are referring to farmers as Khalistanis?
Okay, respond, Tushar Gupta. That this hate speech model was applied selectively to only a few accounts. Tushar Gupta.
You know, Padmaja, I like to give you a fun fact here. You know, during those farmer protest days, there used to be a gentleman on the Clubhouse app who used to spew venom, not against the BJP alone, but also its supporters. Today, he happens to be a TMC spokesperson and happens to be on this very panel. His account was never banned. But coming forward from other points, you know, there is terrible amount of ignorance being displayed by everyone here. Point number one, you have pointed out the tweets that could trigger a law and order situation across the entire state of Punjab and Haryana. The kind of tweets that were being made, not by the farmers, but by the lobbies that were sitting outside India in Canada and America. And they had been spewing venom right after 26 January violence. Now, are these people expecting that the government of India should not act on these accounts who misrepresent, misinterpret the laws, who try to spread misinformation against the discussions that are being held within the farmers and the government, and who want to create a law and order situation on the ground, who want to create a warlike situation on the ground? Point number one. Point number two, about the government making requests to Twitter. Now, this is the data I'm quoting you from Twitter's Transparency Report website. It's not a third-party website. It's the data that has been published by Twitter. You know, for the January to June half of 2021, Twitter received 4.8 million requests for action against certain accounts. These were 4.8 million accounts. Of these, 1.2 million accounts were suspended and 5.9 million tweets were removed on the request of several governments. But here's another fun fact. Within these requests, the compliance rate shown by Twitter for India was merely 6 to 7%. For the likes of America, it was 75%. For France and United Kingdom, it was more than 50%. For Germany and Japan, it was in the neighborhood of 40%. So the people who want to make a case for the Indian government dictating the rules for Twitter, I only recommend that you go and read what was going on between the January and June of 2021 and what was the legal and other demands made by several governments across those months to Twitter. And these requests are routinely made, Padmaja.
Okay.
Let's not think that this was an anomaly.
And
every month, there are
across the board. I have got examples, Shyam Prasad Meka, from Japan, from Russia, from France, which, by the way, once threatened Twitter with a ban, saying that if you do not comply, we will ban you. So, across the board, incendiary material has been taken down by Twitter on the requests of different countries. Why then today are you comparing Mr. Modi to Hitler? When all his government said was that all this genocide, Jallianwala, trying to create riots, this should be stopped. Because one Jack Dorsey has spoken. Mr. Meka.
Padmaja, see, we don't need Jack Dorsey to validate any of our concerns about our own internal issues. Twitter or Facebook, all these platforms are biased and they are influenced by the powers that are be. Okay? So let's not worry about Jack Dorsey and his ilk. Our point is, without Jack Dorsey's endorsement, we know how the systems, the media and the voices are bulldozed, suppressed in India, and that's the point that Congress party has always been making.
How do you know?
And we will continue to do it.
How do you know?
Don't try to say that.
How do you know that social media and media is being bulldozed?
See, we are experiencing it.
You're experiencing it. Or maybe you are experienced in it. Because let me tell you what you did in August 2012, Mr. Meka. In August 2012, the UPA government withheld accounts that promoted violence. That is when Emergency 2012 had trended for the first time. What all did you ask for to be withdrawn. Facebook discussion groups that were posting material about Hindus killing Muslims in Assam. 16 Twitter accounts that spoke of violence in Assam and Mumbai. On August 17, the Department of Information Technology sent an advisory to Google, Facebook, Twitter and other social media firms saying this is harmful content, please pull down these accounts. The Prime Minister was Dr. Manmohan Singh and the IT Minister, ironically, was Kapil Sibal, who today vociferously is talking about dictatorship and blow to free speech. He was the one who asked for 39 Twitter handles to be struck down, to be blacked out in August 2012, Mr. Meka.
Padmaja, see, personally, I am a purist and completely supportive of freedom of expression. But
Yes. Including people who are saying कि अभी जलियांवाला बाग होगा.
Modi government, when
How come you're in Congress party? No, I want to say.
Okay.
I want to come in, please. If you're
No, why
purist,
not?
sir, please answer.
Why not?
What were you doing with the
why not?
Okay, hold on a second, Mr. Meka, hold on. Let me get in Kamar Zaman Choudhary. Kamar Zaman Choudhary, hold on. You had the Congress government in 2012 taking off 309 social media posts. At that time, here is what Sachin Pilot said. Twitter needs to comply. If there isn't 100% compliance, we will take the strictest possible action against them, because these 309 media posts were trying to create an atmosphere of violence, tweeting about Assam and Mumbai. In 2012, when you say that take off this content because violence will happen, it's about law and order. In 2021, when the Modi government does it, you call him Hitler. How is that?
No, there is a day and night difference between the two periods, you know.
How?
Here, people like Disha Ravi, like Saket Gokhale sitting in the panel, or like people like Siddiq Kappan, or people like Umar Khalid, or some other names are there who are behind bars because of the dictatorial autocratic attitude of the Modi government. There is a stark difference between the two.
But sir, we're
When the
talking about
CA
social media regulation. Where have you gone to behind bars? By the way,
I want to come in.
Disha Ravi,
I want to
okay.
come in.
reported.
No, please.
I don't know how you've gone from Twitter to them being behind bars. They're very different.
I know you
very
are
different
impatient to
cases.
protect the supreme leader, but then there is a difference.
Okay, hold on a
These
second.
are all
Shazi
very
Almi,
different
Shazi
cases.
Almi, I'll come to you for a response. Again, you realize you gave the example of Siddiq Kappan. Hold on a second, Shazi Almi. You gave the example of Siddiq Kappan and Saket Gokhale, who went to jail for a different case where the law is taking its course, and yet their Twitter account continues to function. Despite the fact that they had cases against them, even now their Twitter handle remains active.
So I want to.
Yes, Shazi Almi.
So Saket Gokhale has yet to answer as to who got raided as we wants to endorse Jack Dorsey, and when was Twitter taken down. So clearly has no answers. Two, when Supriya Srinath likens Modi ji and calls him a dictator, Allah Hitler, she is actually making fun of India and Indian democracy and electorate, which has us elected Prime Minister of this country. Thirdly, I'm a part of the Anna Hazare movement and Nirbhaya Andolan. I know how an octogenarian was thrown in the jail, how people were thrown into jail for making cartoons, and how Baba Ramdev were thrown in and beaten up, and how many times we had to endure lathi charges because we spoke against rape of Nirbhaya and against corruption of the Congress party.
Okay.
And this party, infamously known for its emergency, is talking about civil liberties. It's a joke.
Okay, we're talking about emergency, we're talking about Anna Hazare agitation, but if we limit ourselves to what happened online, again, Shyam Prasad Meka, I gave you the example of August 2012, where all of these social media accounts were removed. Now let me tell you something really funny. At least these accounts in 2021 and 2012 were taken off because they were talking about riots, they were talking about, genocide. On the August 24, the Manmohan Singh government had 6 parody accounts blocked. Why? Because they misrepresented Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. You are talking about freedom of speech and dictatorship? In 2012, Twitter blocked 6 fake PM accounts, and these dangerous accounts are Indian_PM, PMO India, Dr. Yum Singh, and PMO India. These were the 6 parody accounts. And the advisor to the Prime Minister at that time, Mr. Pankaj Pichori, media advisor, said, the fact that only 6 fake accounts have been blocked shows that New Delhi does not favor a blanket ban on Twitter. This is when he was asked about an attack on free speech. He said only 6 accounts we have blocked, which goes to show that we are a great democracy. Mr. Meka. So not only were you blocking accounts which are promoting violence, you even got parody accounts blocked. Now who's a dictator?
See, Padmaja, you take my name 10 times and continue with your monologue. You take my name and your other panelists take my name and my party and you'll continue with them. What kind of debate is this? You got to be running the show.
Mr. Meka, your party man Kamru Choudhay wanted to make a point. He's Congress only. Anyway, go on.
No, wait. Your other panelist actually is questioning why are you in Congress? What kind of this thing is happening? We know what
Mr.
we
Meka,
need to be.
answer the point. Today you're talking about dictatorship. You had Dr. Yum Singh Twitter account blocked because you felt that a parody is against national interest. Dr. Yum Singh was the name of the Twitter handle. Dr. Meka.
I'll tell you. See, as I said, I am a purist in terms of freedom of expression. Be it Congress party or BJP, I'll oppose any censorship. Okay. And now, coming to
Okay, let him speak.
Coming to dictatorship,
yes.
we don't need Jack Dorsey or any of his ilk to endorse this. We know and we have been accusing the BJP government of fascism and of dictatorship, of an undisclosed, undeclared emergency. We have enough things to prove within this country. We don't need Jack Dorsey, Twitter or Facebook, who are actually actively managed by BJP and their cohorts.
That is
we
great.
are clear on that.
That is
Why
great.
do we need
but if
them?
BJP is fascist, what you did in 2012, what was that? Was it fascism? Answer the point.
If it is BJP or Congress, Twitter or Facebook, they need to adhere by the Indian laws. Indian people will fight if there is injustice in the Indian laws.
Exactly. So that's what Modi government has done. They told Twitter follow Indian laws. Then where is the fascism?
Exactly. That's what we are fighting against the Modi government. We want Twitter to follow Indian laws. We fight Modi government.
Laws. When the BJP got Twitter to follow Indian laws, Jack Dorsey got antsy. Today you are siding with Jack Dorsey in his angst about being made to follow Indian laws. The point is very simple, Mr. Meka. One way or the other, whether it's the Congress in government or the BJP in government, you decide what is in national interest and what is according to Indian laws. Now, somebody can decide to politicize it and call it the emergency, or somebody can just say, this is about Twitter versus India and not Twitter and Congress and TMC and SP against the BJP. Final word, Tushar Gupta.
You know, Padmaja, there are multiple social media platforms today in the world. Each of them, every day, I'm not even saying every week or every month, every day receives several thousand requests from several governments which are related to violence, manipulated content, sensitive media, hate speech, religiously inflammatory speech, and so forth. And they take down those requests. They take the content down. They take those requests very, very seriously. These happen in America, these happen in United Kingdom, in France, in Germany, even in Japan and also in India. Now, we are a nation with 700 million users, so of course the number of requests would be higher, but as related to a population, it's far more lower. Now, if the opposition says that they are happy with the law and order situation going down the drain, with chaos erupting across the state, and the laws not being followed by Twitter, that is what we must be questioning them for. At the end of the day, any social media platform, and in this case Twitter, has to comply with the government laws as they comply with the laws across every country in the West. You see what the data protection law in Europe did to all these companies. They all were paying all the fines. They all were complying with all the laws. But when it comes to India, they want to take the Indian government for a ride. And that is
Your
the approach.
entire government COVID data has been compromised. And you are talking about data protection outage in India. What type of law has Twitter violated?
Inside jail for voicing their opinion.
Twitter from being an intermediary.
Twitter has not violated the laws to suit your spreading hate speech, which could have resulted in a law and order situation.
Speak on,
sir, are you okay? Are you okay?
That's the
are you okay with rights on the ground? Are you okay with rights on the ground?
That you tweet every day against a particular this thing.
Show me one tweet.
Your
Show me one
account should
tweet.
be banned
Show me one tweet.
Twitter.
Show me
Don't
one tweet.
talk about the
Show
data privacy and all this.
Show me one tweet. Show me one tweet.
Entire
show me one tweet.
has been
Okay, we are not going to be shifting goalposts now. We are not going to be shifting goalposts. The good thing is that irrespective of what Tushar Gupta tweets or what Mr. Meka tweets or what Shazia Almi tweets and what you yourself tweet, Mr. Kamar Zaman Chaudhary, till the time you comply with Indian laws and are not asking for riots, all of you will remain on social media and all of you will have your own set of viewers and followers. And that is what Indian democracy is about, which Jack Dorsey doesn't need to lecture us on. Thanks very much, gentlemen. Shazia Almi for joining me.